Hello and welcome to PhDtalk. My name is Miriam and I'm the host on this podcast where I interview PhD students to let them talk about their topics and struggles and joys, and where me and others share tips with you to make your life as a PhD student more effective, less stressful, and most importantly, more fun. For this episode, I talk to Elena Hoffer. Elena is a recent PhD graduate from Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, and she has since then founded her own company called Alma Me, where she and her co-founder help and support PhDs in transitioning from academia to industry, or how she calls it, in their transition journey. So in this interview, in this episode, we talk about the maybe difficulties from shifting from academia to industry and the mindset behind it. Why can it be difficult to leave academia? We talk about the differences between applying for an industry or for an academic job. And maybe this episode can also help you to get a more positive view on that whole process, because I think many are not a big fan of like the application process and looking for jobs and all of that and having to sell ourselves, right? But after all, finding a new job means to a big extent that you're creating a new life for yourself, and that's actually quite exciting. So maybe this episode can get you a more positive view on that whole process and the opportunities that are within it, right? And if you have any questions or comments, then please leave them in the blog post of this episode on LinkedIn. Reach out to us. We are very happy to answer your questions and react to your comments. And then happy listening, and let's talk job application this time. Hi, Elena.
Hi, Miriam.
Thanks for having me in your nice kitchen in Stockholm.
Thank you for dropping by. It's actually quite nice to meet you, another German in Stockholm, in my kitchen. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Would you like to start and give us a little bit of your story? Like, you were a PhD just until recently, and now you started your own company built from your experiences and from talking to your fellow PhDs. Yeah, give us some insights.
Yes, I would love to. It's my favorite topic to talk about. So currently, let's start. I defended my PhD in November, and currently I'm running a business, or I co-founded a business, which is called Alma Me, which focuses on helping PhD students in their transition from academia into industry. And how did I come to build that business is when I was doing my PhD back then, I was like, I didn't really know what to do with my life at some point, but I knew I didn't want to stay in academia because I missed a lot of human interaction. The lab was very isolating for me sometimes. I'm a team player, so I love to work in teams. I love to interact with humans. And I was like, really don't know what to do. So I started actually co-organizing seminars for PhD students where we would invite PhDs that have successfully transited from academia into industry to show basically what are all your opportunities after a PhD. And actually, I got quite inspired by this myself. First of all, because I could see the vast opportunity that is out there after a PhD and how you can actually utilize your skills and what are the skills desired in industry, and that we have a lot of these. So it was really eye-opening for myself. But I also realized while doing this that I really loved working with PhD students, but also just in general helping people. And it was a very fulfilling feeling of, having a PhD student that maybe feels a bit hopeless and doesn't really know what to do. And all of a sudden, they get this hope and they know there is something after that they can do if it's not academia. And I really loved it. And it just gave me this sense of fulfillment. And I always loved, interacting with humans. I also loved meetings because I love to present, like all the things most of the scientists actually hate, because people always go like, oh, I hate meetings. And I was like, I love meetings. I don't know why you guys hate meetings. But for me, it's really about, coming together, interacting, having this exchange of ideas. This is what I really loved. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? And then maybe I can just create my own thing, because I always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit too, because I love to create. And this is something that I really loved with these seminars. It gave me the freedom, I had to design the flyer and I could do it the way I wanted, and we could invite whoever we wanted, and I could just create it. And I really loved this creation with the human connection and helping others. Mm-hmm. And then I was like thinking a little bit like limitless. Mm-hmm. What could I do? And really outside the box. And maybe it's not a job that already exists, but it's something that I can create. And this is how I came to found Alma Me, because it does something good for a target group that I really love and that I'm from myself, but also it gives me all the possibilities to work in areas where I can use my strength. So this is how I came to found this company.
Okay.
And this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Where do you think when you said that some PhDs have difficulties figuring out what does an industry actually want from me, and how can I use what I'm good at in industry? Are they interested in what I'm good at? Where is the mismatch, or where is the overlap?
So I think first of all, I think a lot of PhDs, when they're in academia, they acquire a certain set of technical skills, like expert knowledge. And I see a lot of PhDs, when they go out and they want to look for a job outside of academia and industry, they focus a lot on this expert knowledge. And they really, they limit themselves to, this is exactly what I know. And this is, I need a job where I can exactly employ this expert knowledge. But once you start to understand that you did not only acquire the expert knowledge, but all these other transferable skills from, communication, over problem solving, over critical thinking, creativity, actually coming up with creative solutions, being innovative, working under conditions where you don't have a lot of resources and you still need to make things work. These are all things that you acquire in your PhD too, and that are really desirable in industry. So a lot of these time management, project management, which I don't need to tell you, you learn these things in your PhD because you have to. And I think a lot of PhDs are not aware of this part of their skill set. So I talk a lot about the T-shaped skill set, because you have the capital T where you have the vertical line, right, of the T, and it's the expert knowledge and the depth of the knowledge. And then you have the vertical line, which kind of shows the breadth of the knowledge a PhD has. And a T-shaped skill set is actually the most desirable skill set one can have in industry. Okay. So it's quite desirable. It's just PhDs often don't know. So it's all about creating awareness of what they can bring to the table. And once they understand what they actually can bring to the table, it's just a matter of how they actually communicate it to industry in the next step. But okay. I think that's often, I don't know if I actually answered your question, but yeah.
And how do you think can one become aware of the roof of the T?
I do think, for me, a good method is to, when you do a PhD, you do so many things. I always say it's like running a small business.
Yeah.
Because, you're not responsible for one small part of a project, but you have to actually manage everything related to the project, which is not only actually planning and executing. It's from ordering reagents, making sure you have all the resources to do it. Sometimes you need to even apply for money. So you actually need to be able to, acquire money. You have to write grants. You have to write manuscripts. You have to communicate your science to different stakeholders. Often you're talking to maybe, peers. Or sometimes you talk to collaborators or the public. You have to adapt the way you talk. So think about the things you do in a PhD, like, for example, presenting, and then think, which type of skills did I actually acquire? It's communication. When you present, you break down information, often complex information, into something that is understandable to different type of audiences. So my approach really would be thinking, okay, these are the tasks I did. And then I would think, which type of skills did I use? And then just reflect, because obviously we all use all of these skills, but there are skills where you're better at and skills where you're not so good at, right? For example, yeah, exactly. I think that's a very good way of saying it. Comfortable using it independently, because I think, coming back to time management, I had to manage my time, but I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at time management, but I also had to communicate, and I think I'm a good communicator. So it's all about understanding these things in the context of you as an individual.
Okay.
And doing the reflection work really just helps a lot.
Yeah. So maybe writing all the things down that one did and then really circle like, okay, this is what I enjoyed. And this is maybe what I didn't enjoy that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Then one can get a better picture of who I am, who do I want to be.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely, I just posted today about it, and I think it's really, really a good way to go to just see, what are the tasks that I really enjoy doing? And then it gives you such a good indicator of, what you might want to do after your PhD. I think it's a very simple task in a way.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but I think most of the people are just not aware that this could be a good option of exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is that also something that people approach you with when they get in contact with you, when PhDs contact you, or?
I think PhDs contact me at very different stages. I think if I had to rate it, I think the most questions I get is about really when they're at the resume stage and they don't land any interviews. So they have applied for a lot of jobs and they realize I'm not really getting a response, or the response I hope to see.
Mm-hmm.
I do get also PhDs approaching us at a stage which is a bit earlier, when they say, I really don't know what I can do. I don't know what to do with my skills or with my PhD. Because, for a lot of PhDs, it's also very difficult when they're done. They have no idea. You live in academia. It's a little bit you're in your bubble and you don't really know what's in industry.
Yeah.
And what type of jobs are out there and how would my skill sets match positions in industry. So I think these are the most common questions I get. How I don't know what to do and how to use the skills that I acquired in my PhD and apply them to industry positions or match them with industry positions. And really, I'm not landing any interviews with my resume. And I think these two are connected, because I think a resume shows very clearly if you have clarity of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the first step, is to understand this is what I want to do. And then based on having the clarity of these are the skills that I have, these are the interests that I have, and then you go out and you look for positions that match, and then you apply. A lot of PhDs just go and they do this like mass applying, just, this is a position that seems interesting, let's apply. But it does actually come through in the resume that this is maybe nothing you're really passionate about, but just something you applied for. And I think the biggest struggle in the resume is to transform the resume from an academic CV into a non-academic resume, actually. I think a lot of PhDs struggle, which is no wonder, because no one ever teaches us, and there's a lot of information out there, but it's quite hard to know what is actually reliable and what is not reliable. I think for many, this is also what they tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
From what you said, that was just something that just came to my mind. I don't know if that's right, but I just thought, is it that in academia, CVs are more looking backwards? So this is all that I achieved. These are all the papers that I published. These are all the grants that I got. Whereas industry, it's more like, where do you want to go? Where do you see our company in 5 years? Is that right?
I think it's not necessarily the distinguisher, but maybe if you can communicate how you can contribute to the success of the company to be where they want to be in 5 years, yes. I think what is the biggest difference is that in an academic CV, you want to showcase your academic achievements, publications, honors, grants, and all of this stuff, right? Because this is how we evaluate how people are doing in academia.
Yeah.
If you go out in industry, these things are not super important. They want to see, if you come into my organization, how can your skill in this position help me to achieve something, right? So let's say you want to show the impact of your contribution. So instead of just saying, I have done this, this, and this, you would preferably communicate it in a way where you say, I have established X, Y, Z, and it has led to a 50% improvement of something.
Okay.
So this is very easy for someone to understand, because they immediately see, okay, this is what you did and it brought this impact. And then it's easy for a hiring manager or a recruiter to see, this is actually the impact that she made with the work she did. So I think that's I hope I brought it across in a good way, but I think that's the major difference, that you really want to show the impact rather than just describing this is what I did, this is what I'm good at. And you also want to do it in a language that is actually understandable to a recruiter, so you don't want to be very technical. I think that's also a huge difference, because what a lot of PhDs, I get a lot of resumes, and when you read them, and if I as a scientist don't understand a single word that is written in there, how can a non-technical recruiter understand anything? And then they have to think, what does this person even mean, and how does it align with the position that I'm having here? And this is something that's not their job. It's your job to make them read, oh, wow, this person fits because of X, Y, Z, because you clearly communicate. I have done this. It had this impact. And this is how it aligns with the position that you have posted.
Yeah.
So I guess, I see. Makes sense. Or okay.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then apart from like technical difficulties, like in terms of, knowing how to write a resume, what do you think are like beliefs that are in the way, or the thinking that is in the way?
You mean when people want to leave academia into industry? I do think, I need to think how I will phrase it now. I think one thing is that a lot of us feel guilty leaving academia for the sake of wanting to have a better life, so to speak. It's not a secret, right, that postdocs are underpaid often, and that they can barely pay their rent. So I think there is a little bit of a culture around. We talk about industry as the devil. It's something I hear across countries. So it really is something that is clearly communicated within academia, and I think it makes people feel guilty of wanting to leave, and it makes people feel guilty to even say, I want to leave because I can barely pay my rent, and I wish for a life where I make more money. Because to be honest, it's one of the reasons why I think also academia wasn't suitable for me, because I do dream of some things like vacations and not having to overthink every time I go out and eat and think, oh, can I actually afford this? Do I have to go for the cheapest dish? I think every PhD student can kind of relate to this. And it's just, I made a decision for myself. I don't want that, but I know a lot of PhDs struggle with this thought of, I'm leaving, I'm a bad person because I want a better life for myself. I want to make more money, actually, or I want more stability. I think that's also a thing, right? A lot of postdoc positions are these very temporary positions for 2 years, which I think is, especially for women, a huge struggle often. And I think this could be one of the things PhDs struggle a lot with, that they have this feeling of guilt inside of them.
Yeah. That is also communicated within academia, but that they also maybe potentiate in their heads.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is actually, I do think there is a subtle communication within academia that industry is where people make money, and it's kind of, it makes you feel guilty that you're not sacrificing enough maybe to help humanity to move forward by contributing to certain scientific contributions.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes even communicated in both ways. Like on the one hand, it said, well, it's going to be super hard for any one of you to be a professor ever.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but you can't leave for industry, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of both sometimes.
I think it's and I think that's also very interesting. So I don't really know why this is so persistent in academia, because, the reality is, Miriam, and we know that, like, so few of us can actually stay. So even if you choose, you want to stay. I have seen postdocs that really wanted to stay. They have focused their entire energy, everything they got, into getting down that professor track, and they didn't manage. And it's, that's quite, it's just like they reached a point at some point where they were burned out and said, okay, that's the point where I'm giving up. I gave everything I have.
Yeah.
And I just simply cannot do it anymore. So yeah, and I don't know why there is this guilt around it, because as you said, most of us cannot stay. It's not about us attracting people into industry, dragging them out of academia. That's not at all what it is. It's just giving someone who cannot stay anyhow because there's simply not enough. This is just a numbers game. Simply not enough space. Giving them opportunities and showing them the best way, or giving them all the opportunities and showing them the opportunities to make the best out of their life and their potential. Because I always think of PhDs, they have so much potential, but I sometimes feel like it goes to waste because they're uninformed, because they don't know and they walk out with a very low level of confidence. When I meet them at the point, they have a very low level of confidence about their self-worth, about the worth of their knowledge, skills. And it's really about opening their eyes and say, hey, you have a lot of worth. Your skills are wanted. There are people in industry, they would be happy to have you. And that's also part of my work, really, that I think why I love doing it, because it's really turning someone from, maybe being hopeless into someone who sees hope again. I do have people reaching out saying, I have applied for 6 months in industry. I'm really hopeless, I think maybe I should just stop applying. And I say, no, don't, because I'm sure, you got something. It's just how you communicate your value. I can help you, really. So it's very long answer to your question. I don't know.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's creating maybe this exit that is a bit filled with guilt, or maybe with a bit of maybe regret, or that doesn't feel very good, into a new start that is comfortable and exciting, right?
Yes, I love that you used the word exciting, because, when I think of Almami, what we want to create is like getting people out of this being afraid and scared, but actually thinking about, approaching the next chapter of your life with excitement and thinking like, I can do whatever I want to do. It's like, because it is exciting if you think about it. And just taking this layer where people are scared, which is also completely understandable that people are scared, because what you do essentially, you have been in a bubble for 15 years and all of a sudden someone tells you step out and you don't know what the world out there looks like. It is very, very scary. And honestly, for me, it was also scary to do the step. For me, it's still scary sometimes thinking that I'm sitting here running my own business, not really knowing actually what I'm doing sometimes, and learning as we go. But this is one of my favorite skills PhDs have. I always think of them as expert learners, because we can learn everything. And I think this is so important in nowadays job market that is evolving very fast. We can adapt and we can learn anything.
Yeah, I really like that. Expert learners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because that's what it is, right? And it's just about sitting down and teaching yourself things. I mean, we do it all the time.
Yeah, right.
It's just what we're used to. Figuring things out, doing research on how to approach things, and then just doing it. Failing, iterating.
Yeah.
Story of a PhD.
Yeah.
It's
Is that also part of what makes it different compared to finding a job after a master's?
I do actually think, when you have done a master's, so that's why I always think, I have a lot of PhDs that come to me and say, I don't have any experience. I don't know what to write in my resume. And then I say, I think your PhD is professional work experience. I don't think this is education, because what you do, you go to work and you work, right? And I mean, compared to others, you work very independently. You lead the project. Of course, you have help from your supervisors and so on. But so I think the biggest differentiator is really that I see PhD education and PhD student, although we're called students, it has very little to do with actually studying. I mean, there are parts where we take courses and where we learn, obviously, but also we get really hands-on experience in a lot of different fields. So for me, it's really, the difference is that for me personally, in a PhD, I think you acquire a lot of skills that you can bring into different industries, the transferable skills, but also expert knowledge, which you often is not only theoretical knowledge, but actually hands-on knowledge, right? So I think in a master's, unless you have done a lot of internships, usually I think people walk out and they have not really this amount of practical experience.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, Miriam, but if I look back at my PhD, I work in the lab every day. I mean, this was lab work. It's nothing else than if I go to work in a big pharma and I would do experiments. Maybe the objective is a different one, right? Maybe, but at the end of the day, the work is very similar. And the method that I learned in academia, let's say I ran flow cytometry, I could do the same in industry too.
Yeah, sure.
So it's just, I mean, Yeah, I think I would probably say for me is the biggest differentiator really that I personally label PhD experience as a professional experience. But I had a post on this on LinkedIn, so I also know it's people have different opinions, and sometimes I recommend because when you apply for jobs, what you also need to know, recruiters don't always know what a PhD is, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, let's say you have worked you have worked with a lot of data in your PhD. Just write PhD/data scientist. Data scientist is a term that is more familiar to a recruiter, and they can immediately make the connection. PhD graduate doesn't really mean anything to them. And then if you phrase your PhD professional experience or PhD education under the professional experience, and you manage to show the actual impact you made with all of the work that you did, then I think a recruiter will understand too. So, yeah. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it also maybe depends on the country of the recruiter and also the generation or the age of the recruiter.
It does definitely depend on a lot of things. I mean, if you think about life science recruiters, so I think it's very different. It depends on the size of the company. And also on the industry. So life science often have life science recruiters. I know of recruiters, they have a PhD themselves.
Yeah.
So obviously they have a good technical understanding. But then you have industries that are maybe not life science, but different. And you have a company where a recruiter fills or recruits for different positions within the company. So it's not very focused on, let's say, maybe lab positions, I don't know, or a certain type of position, but it's like they recruit across different, let's say they recruit for a scientist, but they would also recruit, for example, for human resources.
Yeah.
So then you, of course, need to use a different language because obviously this person needs to understand what you're communicating because they don't have the in-depth technical knowledge for a scientist because they recruit across different positions.
Yeah.
But there are definitely differences in recruiters. Yeah, but I would always recommend to go for a more non-technical way of describing your experience because you never know who will actually read it, right? I mean, I guess it depends. Sometimes you have already contact with a recruiter and you can get kind of an impression. Does the recruiter have a PhD in this field? And they most likely would definitely understand more than maybe someone who doesn't. So,
yeah. So it also makes sense maybe to do a bit of research on who might be my recruiter. Or sometimes it's even known, right?
Yeah, I think, the recruiter, usually you would find, and then you could look up if this person, has a PhD maybe.
So apart from figuring out who might be my recruiter, what do you feel about networking? How? Where to start? Does it matter?
Yeah, it's my favorite topic, Miriam. I love networking because I think networking is really, if you do one thing, I would really recommend you start networking as early as possible. Don't start networking when you need a job. This doesn't work because I always love to translate networking into relationship building. And as you know, relationship building takes time. And so you want to give it time before you actually ever need something from your network. You want to have built trust. You want to have built this relationship beforehand, right? So I started building my network. So when I knew 2 years ago when I didn't know what to do, and then I was like, you know what? I took some entrepreneurship courses and I was like, I could really see myself in entrepreneurship and I just loved it. And I was like, there was this lecturer who gave the lecture, and what he said to me, it was one of the most valuable tips I've ever received. He said, without a network, you won't go anywhere.
Okay.
And I listened and I internalized it. And he also made some introductions. So I started working in an organization at Karolinska Institute, and I got introduced to other people through the organization. So this is the time when I started building this network more locally at the time, and then since for the past year really online, where I started just interacting with people that are in a similar space as I am. And this can just really start on LinkedIn by commenting on people that are relevant to you or interesting to you. Because when you show up again and again, and this is now online networking, you can of course also do in real life networking, but why I think online networking is often more interesting because PhDs they come and say, I don't know how to start networking. I don't know where to go, what to do. How can I meet people in industry? And honestly, I think LinkedIn is an amazing platform to meet people from the comfort of your home. You can build a network sitting literally at home, drinking your coffee, and you can interact with industry relevant people. You can comment on their post. And this like showing up multiple times, commenting, and like this sort of consistency, it starts building trust. If you think about any type of relationship, it's like building trust, showing up, supporting each other. And this is really what it is about. Just start commenting. Then maybe at some point when the person knows after the 10th time, oh, this is Miriam. She's commenting all the time. And when I say commenting, don't comment great post. Position yourself as an expert in something. Because you need to think, what is your goal with the networking? If you're looking to get a job, then also show your expertise while you network. Place yourself as an expert in your comments or in the comments of others so they can actually see, oh, Miriam really knows what she's talking about. And then, one day you can even drop a DM and say, hey, you actually, appeared in my feed a lot and you write really interesting things. And I just wanted to drop in and say hello. And then the person already knows who you are because you have interacted in the comments. So there are certain strategies and I think you can build a network. I started on LinkedIn, I think a little bit over a year ago, like showing up.
Yeah.
I started posting since June 23. And before I just interacted. So this was an easy start for me because, even though I'm a very extrovert person and I do understand. So everyone who tells me I'm scared putting myself out there, I was too,
Yeah.
Miriam was saying exactly, Miriam. It's the same for everyone. It's this feeling of, oh God, what will people think of me? Will they judge me? Do I have a typo? Like all of these things are going through your mind. And a very easy way in for me was commenting, building relationships in the comments. Because the interesting thing is when I wrote my first post, I had so many people supporting my post because I have built these relationships by commenting and sometimes, having a conversation in the DMs already. And it made my life so much easier when I started and less scary.
Okay.
So I think networking, most of the people find jobs for networking.
Yeah, I think that's also very true for Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's true because if you think about it, if you get 200 applicants, but then someone walks in and says, hey, I know a person, of course you will look at this resume for sure, right? It's just, it's kind of like a no-brainer. And this is something I hear a lot from Angela, like my co-founder who has worked in hiring for 20 years. She knows a lot of recruiters, a lot of other hiring managers. So this is kind of like how we also know beyond her own knowledge a little bit. She talks a lot to other people. And this is really just how the world works in this case. So if you can, and we don't need to talk about personal branding or actually content creation. I think content creation is the best way of building a network, but I also don't want to talk about it too much because I think a lot of people are not into content creation and they're really afraid of doing it. But you can even just through commenting and showing up, you can build a network. You don't need to necessarily create content.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I was also super scared of using LinkedIn or anything. And that what helped me, that's kind of obvious, but what helped me was to really think, okay, this is a person. Yeah. So like to look at the picture and like, okay, this is a person with a life. And that kind of made it less scary for me because in the end, it is a person, right? And before that, it felt more like I'm talking to a computer. I'm talking to algorithms. I'm talking to people that think what I write is stupid, but it's a person with fears and struggles and good days and bad days. So really like getting that into my mind.
Yeah, and also understanding we all feel the same. It's so interesting. Like, I talk to other content creators that also have quite a large following and everyone feels the same. It's just like, I think, and also like, I guess you get just more once you overcame it. I don't know how you feel, but it's just you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm still, today I posted, I was like, what will people think about that post? But I start caring less. It's just, I'm more comfortable with the thought of not being liked. I think people pleaser is also a thing. I don't know. It really gets in my own way a lot that I always think I need to please everyone. And I know a lot of people feel the same, but you really just have to let go and remember that growth really happens outside the comfort zone. So this is what I tell myself. You have to put yourself out. And just do it. I love Nike. Just do it. I always think of Nike. Just do it. Yeah. I would just say, just do it. Get started. We're all scared.
So is that what you recommend someone to start with? Like square zero would be think of your network?
Yeah, I would definitely think also, so for me, it's this whole holistic approach of, I first figure out where I want to go. You think like, where do I see myself in 5 years? Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And when you know where you want to be in 5 years, you know in which direction to network, right? You will maybe think, okay, in 5 years, I want to work in a pharma company as, I don't know, could be anything. Or maybe you have a particular company in mind that you want to work for, or a position, or I want to be a consultant, and it gives you direction in which direction to actually network to the relevant people. So when I knew, okay, I wanna build my own business, I got involved in some in a founders group, where I would meet people that have already built businesses. So this is the direction I took, but I could only take that direction because I already knew where I wanted to go. So coming back, when everyone contacts me about the resume, it's really about going back. Where do I want to go? And then build towards it, because this is, for me personally, the best way of doing it. And having this 5 years vision, and don't ask yourself. So if you listen to this and you're not at the end of your PhD, this is perfect. Ask yourself right now, and this is really in the middle of your PhD or even in the beginning of your PhD, where do I see myself? And things can change. That's not a problem. But just creating this awareness where you start observing what are the things I like, what are the things I don't like. And maybe even have a journal where you write down, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like. Nice. And then at the end, you will see, there is some sort of pattern to the things I like. And there are some things that I don't like. That's nice. And then you take the things you like and maybe combine them with something you wish to have. And then you look which job could actually give me these things. And it's all about, that's why I think start early and think of direction where you want to go. I think it will help you create the network. So
don't be scared of if you start late.
No, there is no, exactly. Don't be scared. It's never too late. This is the important thing. Just if someone hears it, it's better to start early, but it's never too late. Today is the day where you should start. But
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So if someone would like to work with you, how can they find you?
The easiest way is either LinkedIn, my name, Elena Hoffer, or through Alma.me. Really, we have a website, Alma.me. There we have a contact form, so you can contact me through this. Although you can also write me an email, but honestly, totally LinkedIn works for me too. The only thing with LinkedIn is that sometimes my inbox gets filled up easily, and then I cannot really keep up. And also, if people contact me on LinkedIn, maybe also a good tip for PhDs, when you reach out to people on LinkedIn, the first thing that I really think makes a huge difference is, instead of just clicking connect, take the 30 seconds and enclose a personal note.
Yeah.
I take every request from someone who has enclosed a personal note, even if it's still a bit more generic on why they want to connect, but someone that you wouldn't believe it. Most of the people will not take the 30 seconds, and the ones that do, they will stand out. So it's all about, whenever I think of networking or any type of human interaction, always think, how would I want to be treated and how would I respond to certain things? So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, please just enclose a personal note and maybe say that you listen to Miriam's podcast. I know where you come from, and then I will for sure take it, and I will even reply. I reply to every message. It sometimes takes some time, but if you want to be on the safe side that I will read it, just go to alma.me and shoot me an email through it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I learned something. Thank you.
Good. I'm happy. That's my mission. Yes. That's my mission. My mission is to give PhDs tools and educate them on how they can reach their goal.
Yeah.
What we don't do is we don't fix your resume, but we give you the tools to make it in what you want it. We give you all the tools too, because we're expert learners. So you just need to know the info, right? And then you can go and create.
Yeah, perfect. All the best for all your plans and visions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening today. I very much hope that you enjoyed today's interview, that you could get something out of it, that you learned something new, or that you got a new perspective on the whole job seeking, switching topic. And then again, please leave your comments and your thoughts in the blog post of this episode on LinkedIn. And then I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you here again next time. And until then, I wish you a wonderful week. And bye bye, yours, Miriam.